Is it? Is it on? Okay. All right. We can get started now. Hafidez and Tiro, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Just for clarification, the purpose of today's committee meeting is to receive comments and testimonies for the proposed legislations that are on today's agenda, as well as invite relevant government agencies to join our discussions and perhaps maybe answer some of the questions that the committee members may have, if any. At this time, I would like to inform the public that this committee meeting is being streamed live on cable television channel 23, the legislature's Facebook page, and YouTube channel. I would also like to ask everyone at this time to please silence your electronic devices to minimize any disruptions. I am Senator Karina L. McGovern from the 3rd Senatorial District, Chairwoman of the Senate Standing Committee on Resources, Economic Development, and Workforce. I now call this meeting to order. Today is May 7, 2025, Wednesday. It is approximately 9:13 a.m. here at the Commonwealth Legislature, Capitol Hill, Saipan. At this time, I would like to recognize the Senate committee members who are present with us today. From the 1st Senatorial District, we have Senator Ronnie Calvo, and Senator Donald Maloney will be here shortly. From the 2nd Senatorial District, we have Senator Francisco Cruz and Senator Carl King Neighbor. And present with us today from the 3rd Senatorial District, we have Senator Manny Castro. With 4 Senate members present, we meet the necessary quorum from the Senate side to conduct today's meeting. I'd also like to recognize our Legislative Bureau support staff who are here assisting us this morning. We have our legal counsel, Mr. Joe Bermudez, our legislative assistant, Jolene Duenas-Tagabuel, our Sergeant at Arms, Ben Terlahi, and our IT, Mr. Jonathan Diaz. At this time, we move down to item 3 of the agenda, adoption of the agenda. Can I please get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Motion for the adoption of today's agenda.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Okay, thank you. There was a motion to adopt today's agenda and has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. The agenda for today's meeting is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. Next item on the agenda is our public comment portion. The floor is now open for public comments. If anyone in the gallery wishes to provide comments relevant to today's agenda, please join us in the chamber. If you are providing comments, please state your name for the record and the entity you represent. I kindly ask if we could keep the comments under 5 minutes and relevant to the items on the agenda. Thank you.
Hafre, Tiro, good morning, honorable senators and chairwoman. My name is Sixtu Kaiparigi Somar, currently the acting secretary for Department of Public Land, and as nominated by our honorable governor, lieutenant governor. Today, I'd like to make my comment be on the item on the agenda, Senate Bill 24-1212. And the comments coming from the Department of Public Lands is that we are in support still of the comments that was transmitted to this committee on this particular bill by our former Secretary Teresita Santos. Her letter was dated February 24th, 2025. And her comment generally was that she is favorable to the bill with her recommendation on an amendment on the bill. And the amendment was to increase the amount to be used or set aside within budget from $200,000 to $275,000. So we stay on that view. I just want to add a few comments. If time allows, with respect to the bill, if it's not too much, if there's still time to amend the bill, for my end is the amount of $200,000 reserved for on the land use plan to try and do an update on the land use plan. Currently, we believe the amount is not necessarily enough. The land use plan was created with about $800,000. To try and update the land use plan would require us to hire consultants that will oversee the update and will require a lot more items that will be within the service, a service to review the land use plan and update it. Henceforth, I believe that if if you retain the $200,000 as recommended in the bill, then I would recommend adding language that you allow public land through the Department of Public Land funds that are currently in Secretary of Finance funds to allow it to be on hold, to hold it so that we can every year add money in there. So we'll go out there and do an RFP or RFI to see how much it would cost. And if the $200,000 is not enough, finance would be authorized by statute through your amendment to hold it. And so we can continue. Because if we're basically, if we put 200,000 in a budget, we have to spend it or transmit it. So that's all I ask. No? Undang kluna sujusmasi.
Suzus Masi, Secretary, we will make sure that we note your recommendation and we will make the necessary amendments to reflect on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you,
Suzus
sujusmasi.
Masi.
Hafade Tiruwami. My name is Alex Sablon. I am a member of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, but I'm here in kind of my personal capacity. Thank you, Chairwoman and members of this committee. I am here to talk about 24-23. And, with all due respect to the authors of this, and I appreciate the couple of meetings that I've had with one of the authors and some of the board members in discussion about the suspension of the zoning regulations or zoning board. I recall when Cindy Bauer Camacho, stacked what seemed to be volumes of regulations that came about in the 90s when the SAIPAN initiated the original regulations. It was, overwhelming, I think, to look at them. And we all understand that over time, we've spent a considerable amount of effort to modify the regulations that came from, some rural area within the United States, I assume, and we mirrored some of these regulations. But we have attempted to modify them over the years to conform with Saipan's needs and the Commonwealth's needs, I think, overall. The original intent is to be commended because of the conditions that we want Saipan to be in when we're trying to sell the island to visitors from far off, right? And also to support the idea that communities are going to be safe, that our land values are going to be retained so that they're not significant intrusions into communities and to adjacent and budding businesses, and I respect the zoning staff and the zoning board for everything that they do. It's not easy. It's somewhat a thankless job, I think, in dealing with a lot of the ridicule that is within the community about zoning itself. I think there's absolute purpose for it. It needs to be retained. Again, to my original point about Cindy Bauer Camacho's volumes, is there a need for regulatory change? Yes. And I think the board members, some of them agree that there needs to be modification to it. And I think we don't need to throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. I think there needs to be modification. One recommendation that I've made, and I don't want to speak out of turn, and I don't want to put a lot of work on the current staff because there apparently is some limitations because of the need for more personnel, more expertise, I guess, within the organization. They readily admit that. But we understand that there are constituents that have complaints, and I imagine by virtue of the statements I've heard from one of the authors is that, this is waking up the community to a condition and a situation that is frustrating certain people. But again, I think the idea is if there are top 10, top 20 issues that come before the zoning board and before you as members of the legislature, and you're hearing from your constituents, these are the things that I think the zoning board could look at to try to modify through regulatory processes, and not necessarily a legislative fix to, suspend or abolish it. Um, I think they have a litany of complaints that have been received, either by your organization or by individuals within the community, and they have the ability to go to before the board and make those regulatory changes, or the board itself, who are dealing with a lot of the conditions and concerns that are coming from our constituencies, that they also have the ability to bring it forward and empower the zoning staff to make these changes if they're necessary. And so I think regulatory processes, administrative procedures acts that need to be instituted are the way to go with dealing with the situation of zoning. It's never a good time to implement the law. I mean, I guess that's really the condition we're dealing with. There are a lot of people that are frustrated because there is empowerment of the zoning staff, and there is empowerment to adhere to the law that was put forward by legislatures of the past. Do I see the reasons for the need to look at suspending? Yeah, I think there's some conditions that are there, but I again believe that sitting down, understanding this, and I am no expert. I deal with the specific issues that I deal with within our organization to run a project through, and there are issues that come about, but the professional staff of the zoning board have been accommodating, and there is a process that individuals can go through. Yes, it takes time. Yes, you have to put some effort into it, but there are modifications that can be made within the zoning law and the zoning regulations. And I think with a little patience by the community, we will protect our land values. We will protect the safety and integrity of our communities. And we will allow for the zoning act to do what it's supposed to be doing, which is ensuring that we have a bright, beautiful community. So thank you very much to you, members. And again, thank you for the time to provide my comments.
Mrs. Masi, Mr. Sablan. Floor is still open.
Morning. I think I might have a virus on my computer. I think Alex stored my speech. Again, Madam Chair, committee members, honorable legislators, my name is Steve Jiang. I'm a business owner. I stand before you today as someone who had the privilege of working in both private sectors and the public sides of development here in Saipan. I come to you with a simple but very important message. We should not abolish zoning on our island. We must simplify it. We must modernize it. Let's begin with basics. Zoning is not about red tape or government outreach. Zoning is about order, responsibility, and protection for residents, for businesses, for our environment, and for our shared future. Without zoning, we invite chaos, inconsistency, community disputes. I fully acknowledge what many of you already know. Our current zoning laws are outdated, convoluted, and sometimes very subjective. That is the real issue right now. These laws, modeled after what Alex has mentioned, is from South Dakota. The state with a vastly different geography, population density, cultural values than Saipan. We are not South Dakota. We are the Pacific Island with our own identity, our own needs, and our own vision for the future. So yes, we must revisit, reform, and tailor our zoning code to reflect Saipan's reality, not someone else's. But abolishing zoning entirely, that is not the answer. Allow me to paint a picture. Would you want to have an automotive repair shop running 24/7 next to your home? Would you want a piggery next to your restaurant? Would you want a loud bar across from the school? I wouldn't, and I'm sure you wouldn't either. Zoning exists to prevent these conflicts or those conflicts before they happen. It sets a clear expectations. It ensures the residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural use don't clash in ways that hurts the communities. Now, let me share a practical example of doing business in Saipan, something you all know. To open up a small business in Saipan, you pay $10 for zoning fee. You pay $100 for business license. You pay $100 for the DPW occupancy permits, and you pay $2,000 to hook up a power. That's not even including the LLC and other costs to do the business in Saipan. And once you're open and you're making $2,500 a month, and you're still faced with a BGRT, depending on the brackets, still 15% or more on the labor costs. And up to 50% of your income goes to CUC. Think about it. So let's ask honestly here, who's really hurting the small business? It's not the zoning, it's not the $10 fee. It's the cost of utilities, it's outdated systems, it's the economic pressure that discourages businesses before they even get started. Zoning is not a villain, okay? Zoning, when everything's done correctly, is a tool for fairness, consistency, and a smart development. For our lawmakers, I offer this challenge. If you want to abolish zoning, show us 5 solid reasons, evidence based on reasons, not just opinions. Until then, let's not tear down a system meant to protect our communities. Let's improve it. Let's make it our own, not to follow others. Let's not roll back a decade of planning and open the door to reckless, unregulated development. Saipan deserves better. Our people deserves better. Let's reform zoning, not remove it. May God bless CNMI. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jan. Floor still open?
Tiro, and good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Teresa Gomro, Zoning Administrator, and I'm here again appearing before you along with the staff and some members of the board to ask once again relative to the comments that I submitted in March for the author, Senator Castro and Madam Chair, if you can reconsider and withdraw your bill, and for the panel or the committee members to vote to recommend disapproving this bill, mainly because it lacks the basis to really justify suspension of the zoning operations, which is the, I'm pretty sure it was written in the bill that it is an agency that has contributed significantly to the improvements of our communities for years since its inception. And so for that reason, I once again ask for your consideration to recommend against this bill. Hiliso.
Giliso Administrator Ogamoro. Floor is still open. There are no other comments. We can move on to the next item on the agenda. Oh. Recognize Mr.
My name
Jan.
is Steve Jang. I'm one of the board members. Right now, our board chair has gone to the restroom. Would it be okay to wait for a few more minutes for his input?
Yeah, sure. We'll just go down the agenda and then we'll take a short recess to wait for him to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the public comment portion of the agenda is closed. Moving along on the agenda is our new business. Under new business, we have 4 bills to review. In the interest of time, I don't think we're going to be able to address all 4 bills. So members, Senate Bill 24-12 will be tabled for another time. And 2425, Senate Bill 2425. We do have DPW, the Secretary of DPW here with us today. So if we have the time, we can probably entertain Senate Bill 24-8 to amend certain provisions of the CNMI Recycling Act of 1999 to establish a Department of Public Works and its proper authority. I've reviewed the bill in its entirety. It's an existing law. There's not that many changes to the bill except transferring the authority from, I believe, BECQ to now DPW. And so if there are no objections from the members, we can probably take care of that and get it out of the committee. And then we'll sit with zoning because I think this might take a little bit longer than the recycling bill. So if there are no objections, we would like to invite Secretary Yumo to the chamber so that we can, the members can have an opportunity to ask any questions they may have, if any. At this time, I recognize Secretary Yumo. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of this honorable committee, and thank you for inviting me in to make comments with regards to Senate Bill 24-8. Of course, the history of this bill, although it is new to this legislative term, it's a bill that had been worked on by Senator Castro at the time as a representative in the House, the 23rd House of Representatives. And the bill basically will take the authority of the CNMI Recycling Act of 1999 that was placed within the Division of Environmental Quality to transfer those functions of this act over to DPW so that we can run this program. And this program actually is a really good program. The history behind why it was not implemented is pretty deep, but in its simplistic sense is that DEQ believes that they are a regulatory agency, and they're really not the responsible party for the enforcing and the implementation, which is sensible. I mean, it really makes sense. They regulate solid waste activity, and are not really in the business of conducting this type of activity. So historically, what we did within the last 2 years under the administration of Palacios and Aptang is that we developed through the Office of Grants Management the Recycling Redemption Initiative, which went really well. Um, the grant was pushed out back in 2023, and we had a very strong showing. It was extended out to Rota and Tinian residents. They also were very responsive, and it was successful as well. We saw a volume of cans removed when we would normally see it through processing, for example, at the transfer station, or just by doing a visual inspection of the landfill whenever commercial hauler would dispose of the trash, and refuse compactor would spread out the trash itself. We would see the cans. When the program was implemented, we did not see the cans. It really, really worked. And that, in essence, reduced the volume of waste, thereby extending the life period of the landfill. Similarly for Rhode and Tinian, although the putting it frankly, it is an unpermitted dump. We are in the process of getting it permitted, but once it is permitted, we would see also the lifespan of those facilities extend up because we're reducing waste. Now, the program expired. The grant funding was used up. Then Governor Arnold Palacios reached out and said, "Hey, let's make this available again for this period," which we kicked off. That started April 28th, and it's moving quite successfully. Unfortunately, it's only being offered for the island of Saipan. But if this bill becomes law and I move ahead and put in the regulations in place, we will extend this to all three islands. In fact, in my budget submission, I've identified additional staffing that's going to come from this Senate bill, should it become law, to hire additional staff for Rhode, Tinian, and Saipan just to focus on recycling. So it is a critical piece of bill, and I did state that in my budget submission to OMB and the governor, so they are aware of it. This current program is not as in terms of funding, it's not as large. OGM put up about $50,000. DEQ contributed $30,000. I've also pledged to cover the administrative costs for the selected contractor that's handling the program. So it's moving along. This program is going to last roughly 3 months. So we have this time period. I'm trying not to have another gap, but unfortunately, the way regulations processes work, if this bill becomes enacted swiftly, I would still need at least 90 days to promulgate and publish the regulations. So I recognize that, but we will notify the public. Please, hold on to your cans, your plastic bottles, and also your glass bottles, because the goal is to restart this as quickly as possible so that we can continue. This is a really good program. The solid waste is an actual business activity. There is residual recycling, is big business stateside and in Asia. So it's not like it's a program that everyone shies away from. Just last week, we DPW through NMTech and OPD with grant funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I believe USDA, provided training and certification for 19 solid waste staff. So these guys are now certified in proper solid waste management and handling of waste from the point of receiving it to the final disposition. And we've basically raised the bar. We're making solid waste management a professional program. We did graduate or certify 4 um, solid waste staffers from Tinian, and I believe 4 as well from the island of Rhoda. So the bar has been set, and we want to keep this momentum going. So I do ask that this body please consider a swift passage of this. I have been discussing this bill with the House of Representative members, and they are waiting for this bill so that we can get this program firmly seated and operating. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. At this time, I open the floor to any of the committee members to ask any questions or provide any clarifications. The author of the bill is a member of this committee, so at this time, the floor is open. Recognize Senator Manny.
Colleagues, just wanted to give some background about the Recycling Act of 1999. It was in fact introduced by my grandfather, Manuel A. Tenorio, during his time as a congressman. And it became public law back then and was never implemented. And till this day, it's not implemented. The whole concept of the Recycling Act is to streamline, of this bill 24-08, is to streamline government services and reduce duplication of services, but at the same time, incentivize, reduce litter by incentivizing the process rather than penalizing. So how does that work? So for example, right now we tax people to clean up litter. When a beverage container comes into the port, there's an excise tax, there's a beautification tax, there's a container tax. It's just very tax heavy. That money then goes to MVA and other agencies. Then MVA kind of like funnels it to Parks and Rec. It doesn't go straight to the source oftentimes, right? And it's penalizing the people who are not responsible for the litter. The current process that we have penalizes, like for example, when you get taxed for an item, then let's say litter is thrown in the jungle. Your taxes are paying for the mayor's office or Parks and Rec to clean up that mess. But if we were to put this, finally implement this act and house it in the right agency, what we would be doing is incentivizing people to clean up the litter. And that's why the 555 program has worked. It's been proven. The 511 program that is rolling out is working. You don't see as much trash now, especially the beer cans or the soda cans, because people are collecting it and redeeming it. So just like 3 trash bags of cans can equate to $100 or more. So right now, that's a way to improve. And the timing is really important because right now we have federal funds that are keeping this program running. So we want, the best case will be to have this law in place so before the funds run out. So in essence, Uncle Sam helped us with all the startup costs to get this program off the ground. And in the House a few years ago, we were hoping that it would go through. But this is the second batch of federal grants that are rolling out, and we want to have something ready before that grant runs out. I just wanted to thank our Secretary of DPW for his leadership and really seeing something like, especially now when government resources are really tight, and looking for opportunities and ways to streamline government services. So thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, Senator. Any other members? Any questions on the recognize Senator Calvo?
Thank you, Chair. No, I just want to also, reiterate and thank, Mr. Castro for revisiting this act and sharing the history behind it. Like we did mention in the different bills and stuff, climate change, things have changed. Trash, reduce, reduce, reuse, recycle. Because in the educational aspect, we always promote, reduce, reuse, recycle. And this is a funneling system, and I can remember when I was a child, the 5 cents per can, the 10 cents per bottle. And like you said, the taxation part. And this is a reinvestment back into the community. It's going to be a great impact. I'm happy that we're getting the ball rolling. It took this far as conditions, but thank you, Public Works Secretary, and also the certification. And I'm, assuring that this is going to be a successful program ahead for the CNMI. So really appreciate and I support that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator Carl and then Senator Manny. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Secretary Yumo. Thank you for making the time to be here with us today. I just had first, I want to express my support for this piece of legislation. I do understand through the various conferences that we've attended the importance of minimizing the kinds of waste that end up in the solid waste in our landfills or dump sites. The ability to reduce the amount of glass, green waste, cans, metals, such items, like you said, does extend the lifespan of these facilities. The question I do have is, what can you expound or explain to the committee what happens to these recycled items? Are they stored? Are they shipped off? Are they processed? What is the final product of the recycled goods that you guys are able to collect?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. That's a really good question. So for the cans itself, we do ship them off. We put out a bid for contractor such as Artman or FSM, any of the recycling facilities, more than welcome to bid on recycling the aluminum cans, which is valuable in Asian countries. They smelt them down and into aluminum ingots and reuse. So there is a cost factor to that, and we understand that. But if this program really works well, which we've already seen how the mechanism that we're already envisioning because of the collection, our biggest goal is when we look at the landfill itself, the costs associated with expanding the cells, the A&E design, cell number 3, for example. We just opened up cell number 2. We're talking millions. So the cost is, in my opinion, is a part of business. It's okay. It's manageable. The thing that we're doing is that with the glass bottles that we're going to be collecting, we actually don't ship those off. We have a pulverizer that we grind down the glass and bring it down to almost sand-like material, and we can reuse that for paving, decorative use. We even have community members come in and approaching us asking for the pulverized glass because they want to use it in glassware, or they want to melt it and reform it in whatever form or fashion that they desire. The thing is that there is a demand for that. I do have, the department is in possession of a pyrolysis equipment, and this pyrolysis equipment is a waste to energy. It's meant to take plastics, rubber materials, certain other types of I would say petroleum-based materials that will convert it into biodiesel. So we're looking into that prospect, and the plastic bottles, for example, is a good source for that. More details on that is forthcoming. I'm not prepared to discuss that today, but I can have a meeting with you guys in private if you wish. But the focus here is again on what we're doing with the product. So primarily we ship them off. We're trying to avoid that. When we shipped off tires a couple years ago, we spent close to $400,000. We did procure a multi-shredder. It's up at the landfill right now, and we're going to pulverize that and shred it down to chunks. And we can actually use that as cover material for the landfill, which is an allowable, which is allowable by EPA. But we're going to try to reserve that as well for the pyrolysis pilot project. So we're trying to make use of every material. Cardboards, for example, we don't want to put in the landfill. We're segregating that because we want to shred them and mulch it so it can be blended in for agricultural use, bedding material for livestock, things of that sort. So the less we ship out and the more we recycle and reuse, it benefits because the cost factor drops dramatically. I'll give you an example. I did the math for our current landfill operator. We're paying close to $106,000 a month just for that operator to operate the landfill. Our volume went from 30,000 metric tons a year back in 2023 down to about just a couple thousand above 20. We went from about $40 a metric ton when you do the math to the cost factor to the contractor. We went from 40, it shot up to close to $60 a metric ton. Our tipping fee right now is at $37.50, so you can already see that we're a negative business, so we're being creative because we don't, honestly, we don't want to raise the tipping fees, because once we raise the tipping fees, customers of commercial haulers may stop service, and because of the cost factor, and we're going to end up seeing the trash all over the place, right? So that's our goal. The administration, Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang, we share this vision, so we're trying to minimize. So coming back around, the way this program is going to work is our number one producer of let's say the empties, right? The cans, the bottled water, really. The cans itself, we all know it's the AFIS down at Puerto Rico. But I did reach out to, at the time, Delegate Kalili. I've started open discussions with the current delegate Kim Hines' staff that once this bill becomes law, to have them assist with me reaching out formally to Department of Defense, because there is a mandate in the Department of Defense that when a recycling program of this nature is implemented in the state, in this case the territory, the Commonwealth, they are required to participate in the program. So if our rules is promulgated and says, look, we're not, and this is where I need to correct Senator Calvo. It's not a tax. I'll even turn around and say, guys, this is not a tax. It's an advance fee. We're asking you to pay 5 cents up front. But once you bring that can to a recycling facility, you're going to get it back. If you don't turn it in, that's fine. Someone's going to pick it up and turn it in for you. They're going to get that 5 cents. So thank you for your donation, right? So AFIS will be required to collect 5 cents per can at the point of sale from their customers, because all the trash that's generated from the sales of everything coming out of AFIS will end up in the landfill anyway. So they are contributing to the landfill. So DOD recognizes that. So they want to be a supportive partner in this type of activity, and they welcome it. In fact, they've been waiting for it because they want to be good stewards just like us.
Thank you for that. Just to follow up, so you mentioned some equipment that you guys have here on Saipan to assist in processing of the recyclable products, right? Um, could you explain how this process works for the outer islands and how that system works?
Okay, so we had me we have a small task force group of um, agencies, mayor's office for the respective islands, DQ, DPW, EPA staff, and we meet regularly. There is funding identified. It's being handled primarily through OPD, Office of Planning and Development, under Chris Sablon, the deputy, and there's a grant, it's, the Swiffer grant. It's already been identified. It will be. It will see its fruition. The grant will give Rhode and Tinian funding to purchase compactors, so that when the recycling, collection of metals, cans, plastics in this sense, comes into the facilities on Rhode and Tinian respectively, they will be compacted into cubes, and then we'll ship them over here for further processing. Yes, and together with the our pyrolysis project that we're developing, we'll be also asking for all the plastics, all the rubber tires, any all the e-waste. We want all of that here, so it will also reduce the footprint that's going into the respective landfills on Rhode and Tinian. So it's a big windfall for everybody.
So I do know that and I want to thank you for your efforts in assisting Rhoda and Tinian to bolster the solid waste staff. I know it's been a major issue on both islands, maybe a little bit more so now on Tinian, being that all of the activities are happening. One of the downstream effects that weren't necessarily initially identified was that so as you all know, any waste that the military brings in has to take out. They have to take out.
Right.
Unfortunately, there are kind of some loopholes within that policy that enable them to use local vendors to dispose of some of their waste. An example for that is tires. So the military, nothing stops them from using a local vendor to replace or to repair tires. And
Right.
so now, all of a sudden, what we expressly did not want to happen is happening through a loophole in our system. And I wanted to extend our appreciation for you helping us get the manpower that we need. Though we need more, I'm appreciative of the ones that we have. That being said, with this, they're rolling out, and obviously you've already, as you said earlier, you've expressed that you've identified positions that you would need to assist in facilitating this program. So my question is, how do you balance the two? Because obviously the solid waste component Specifically, I can only speak for the second senatorial, is still not at a place where the we can operate as efficiently as we can. Obviously, they're doing their best, and I commend them and your efforts. But how do you balance the two as we're asking for more staffing for this program? All the while, the solid waste component is a more imminent. And I understand too that, like you said, as you remove and extract the metals, the green waste, the glass, then you minimize the impact on the dump site. But you still need to maintain the foundation of where all the refuse goes, right? So just kind of a little bit of insight as to your thought process when it comes to that.
Right. So thank you for that. We do have the ASAJA grant that's still queued up, ready to be drawn down. However, we're drawing near. We're on our final phase for the public comments period. I believe it's active as we speak. If you would visit the OPD website, you will find our comprehensive integrated solid waste master plan, which is out for public comments, and it will be due. I believe the last comment period acceptance will be around the 24th of this month, basically the end of the month. And then OPD will compile the comments if they're substantial enough that will be incorporated into the plan, or and then it will be presented to the governor for his signature and sign off, so that we can officially hand it over to EPA. It's estimated that EPA may take as much as up to 6 months for review and acceptance of our plan. And once that plan is accepted and published as well in EPA's register, then the ASAJA funds will be released. That is our primary funding source for making all the solid waste facility upgrades. Coupled with the Swiffer grant for the equipment that I mentioned, we will basically get the solid waste program for all three islands to a better level. Of course, Rhode and Tinian to get caught up to that of Saipan, but for Saipan, it's all the additional processing, because the goal is to receive all the waste stream coming from Rhode and Tinian here, so that it can be consolidated and dealt with, because it is expensive to try to find a shipping company or a contractor that's going to take the waste from Rhoda or Tinian respectively and send it straight up off to Asia, right? It's better suited to be processed here. Military waste, of course, yes, you're correct. Military waste is not supposed to end up in the landfill or on Rhoda, on Tinian. The landfill up here is compliant. We are receiving military waste that needs to be brought up. To me, that's the better choice at this point, because it is kind of adding to commerce, intermodal. That way, there's always activity on the water, so that the prices of goods and commodities going into and out of Rhode and Tinian respectively stays reasonable, because there's always shipping activity. So I actually encourage that. I know in the beginning I was a little bit hesitant. Like, why are we going to be receiving all this waste? But because the program is now coming together, and we do have plans to deal with the waste streams, we are in a better position. That landfill will last much longer than originally thought of, because, for example, once landfill up in Marpi reaches its maximum capacity, where else can we open up a landfill? There's really not a lot of land space here, right? So we are keen on this. Likewise, same for Roland and for Tinian. Developing is easy, but finding the property to develop is the hardest thing. Look at the Peace Park, the Eloy Enos Peace Park. That was a former dump that was sealed. That, in essence, is what the landfill will look like once it reaches full capacity. And once it's sealed, just like the Peace Park, you can't do anything on it except to just conduct monitoring, testing, because as the waste releases its gases and its liquids, we need to monitor and maintain that and process those waste uh, byproduct, right? And under EPA regulations, we were required to do that for a minimum of about 25, 30 years, and we can't do anything to it. So that's our biggest worry, is that the next generation and the generation thereafter will have a huge burden if we don't uh, have a good solid waste plan.
You did bring up the SAJA funding, and that has been on the table for quite a while. They have been drawing down, obviously, on that pool of funds. Um, I would like to know if you have any idea as to how it's going to be apportioned. If any of the people at OPD, who are the ones responsible for the overall plan being published and finalized, do you have any insight, or have they provided you any insight as to how the funding is going to be apportioned through the senatorials?
Yes, I believe it's already been apportioned since the get-go. I believe it's something to the effect of 40, 10, 10, 40 million for Saipan, 10, and 10 for Road and for Tinian. There have been drawdowns, like, for example, the fire that happened on Tinian, and that needed to be cleaned up. So EPA allowed for the use of ASADRA funds to deal with that localized emergency, because that was a detriment to public health. And EPA will not release the funds absent the comprehensive plan. But on a case by case, they have been releasing funds. We are paying for professional services. OPD has all the details there. The staffing that we have assigned to each of the islands is being sourced from Masaja, but the bulk of the funds is still relatively intact. We're gonna see what we can do. I know the laundry list is huge, and it basically goes beyond the pot. But we're gonna come back to the table and say, okay, let's look at the priorities and figure out what is critically needed and what can come at a later time. Because once these programs really starts kicking off, solid waste is supposed to be self-generating. Tipping fees is supposed to cover operational costs. Of course, import when goods come in, there's a small portion of that for the solid waste management for all three islands. So we source from that, and those are all portioned to Saipan, Road, and Tinian as well. So I'll have a better bird's eye view, if you will, after the
Completion.
right after the comprehensive plan has been duly adopted, and we get to work on how to start procuring, because there are multiple lists of equipment that's needed, staffing that is needed, and the like. So it is a global program for the Commonwealth. So once we get closer to the implementation phase, of course, we're gonna come back to this body, and we'll discuss it openly. We will reach out to the jurisdiction of Road and Tinian, so we can talk to the community so that they understand also what's going on. It's going to be an open book, so we're not going to keep anything from anyone. So we all understand what we need to do.
Sure. And well, that is it for me. Again, Secretary Yumo, thank you for being with us this morning, and
Thank you.
Thank you for answering questions.
Thank you, Senator and Secretary. Anyone else? Oh, recognize Senator Money. Thank you.
So I just wanted to add that right now some of these programs are not available to all three islands. And should 2408 pass, it's going to be available Commonwealth wide. Given our economic situation right now, we don't look at this as we may not see this as a way to improve our economy, but GDP, in essence, the economy is based on GDP, gross domestic product. And you don't just have to focus on exports. By reducing your imports, you in essence help your jurisdiction's GDP. So, for example, when you see all the tires being thrown in the jungle, that's something that can be upcycled, right? You not only do you have the advanced disposal fee. If this passes, you have an advanced disposal fee that will help fund upcycling opportunities. But for example, something that is considered trash can be turned into something of value. So rather than importing like rubber padding for the playgrounds, you can shred those tires and use it for that type of material. Something like this cup, if it's upcycled, you, you know, put some holes in it, you can use it as planters. So we also have to really look at reducing our imports in order to help our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator Manglonia.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any questions, but I do have some recommendations, and hopefully this is something that, if signed into law, could be considered. I do see as part of the statute that DPW shall consider the environmental and economic benefits of the diversion, the existing and potential markets for the material, and the existing collection and processing infrastructure. And so while those environmental studies will be conducted by those in charge, I hope that maybe you can also look into the types of waste and how we can maybe reduce the impact to our environment, such as I've never really understood the amount of plastic bottles, for example, that are produced here in Saipan, because, unlike on Rhoda, where we can drink off the faucet, right? There hasn't been much done to maybe require that these bottling companies use a thinner material, or I don't know what grade of material, to get it to where you can dispose it like that you would of a Pure Life bottle, if you know what I mean. So those are some of the impacts that we haven't really looked into, maybe, and so hopefully that as part of this program could be studied along with maybe in the last term, I've introduced legislations on plastic bans and styrofoam bans, and that hasn't really gone anywhere yet. But just seeing all the steps that the other territories and states are taking to really protect the environment, I think that's one aspect, other than providing incentives to our people for collecting these materials so that it could be disposed of properly. Hopefully this division can come up with a report as to what are some ways we can also reduce the impact or look at alternatives that would lessen the amount of waste that comes into our islands. And so those are just some recommendations as part of the evaluation aspect of this statute, and I hope that's something that we could see in the next, once the regulations are promulgated, maybe within the next 6 months to a year. And so I just wanted to bring that up and share that. I do support this. It hasn't gone anywhere at DEQ, and so I hope it finally goes somewhere with DPW.
Thank you, Senator, for that. Yes, within the Comprehensive Integrated Solid Waste Master Plan, there is also provisions in there that will look into the development of these types of programs that you brought up. MENA, I've been working with Mr. Guerrero, and I've opened up a line of communication with her, saying, look, if there's something that DPW can do with MENA, we want to help facilitate. they did bring in a type of equipment that takes certain plastics. There's a reason why bottom caps, for example, are more sought after than the body of the water bottles, because the plastic caps are made of a more durable plastic, and it's more malleable. So it can be extruded and reshaped. We can make and they've made keychains, lattice stone keychains. So imagine if we made a whole bunch of that and gave it to the tourists. Tourists won't even know that they're taking our trash away. And they got a little gift. On a larger scale, we can make even parking bumper stops, or tire stops, right? Things of that. So we can make even large planter boxes with that. So we are looking at that. Of course, we all know PSS is a large contributor of the waste stream that we receive, the e-waste, the plastic bottles. But that's okay. We have plans for that. We're not saying that they need to change that, but once this program kicks off, this is basically the fire that needs to be lit, because I can tell you right now, I'm limited. Absent this legislation, I'm really limited in what I can do. This is why I work with Office of Grants Management, because they kickstart the program, and then we jump on as a partner, because DPW statute, the Enabling Act, doesn't have that in place where I can reach out and start this type of program, which is the recycling. And the best part is that it doesn't require an additional legislation. It doesn't require the Ways and Means of the House or Fiscal Affairs Committee of the Senate to provide seed money. It's already seeded. We're just trying to make the bridge connection between this program and what we need to do to continue it, right? But I know it's going to be tight, but it's okay. It's still manageable. There's this legislation has the key components, which is the ability for the department to promulgate the rules. That's the most critical aspect, and it's right here in the bill itself. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manglona. I recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, Secretary.
Good morning, Senator.
Thank you. I'm glad that you will accept this, transferring to the DPW, the responsibility of recycling. I know that segregation of materials are being done today, even in Tinian. But I'm wondering whether you have plan to manage also glasses, because there's a lot of glasses here in the cinema, and I don't see any plan in segregating glass. Glass is all over the landfill, and I'm wondering whether that will pose hazard to our environment.
No, glass is. Thank you, Senator, for that question. Glass is not hazardous. It's because it's basically silica. It's made out of silica sand. It won't pose a threat other than a hazard. You don't want to get cuts, for example, or get stabbed. The goal is we want to get these crushing equipment, the pulverizers, to each of the islands, so that as those glasswares, it's not just when I say glass bottles, that's just a generic term. It can also include tableware, for example, the ceramics. We can crush those and make that available for anyone who wants sand-like material. After it's been grounded down. So the difference between the 555 program and the 511 program is that we included in this program the 511 glass. So eventually we're going to increase, once this program is implemented, 1 cent per glass bottle really is not where it needs to be. It should be 5 cents as well, because like I said, glass, it will be the last item that needs to be shipped out, even for the islands of Rhoda and Tinian. Once the glasses bottles are collected at the recycling facilities, for Rhoda, recycling facility will be constructed under the Swiffer grant. I know Tinian has a recycling facility, and that's going to be expanded on, but Rhoda unfortunately does not have a solid structure facility, so they're going to get a facility built. But the glass that's going to be collected at the respective islands can remain on that on the island after it's been pulverized and crushed, because it can be blended in with Portland cement and used as concrete, for example, for driveways. Yeah, and you're gonna get a nice little sparkly shine out of it.
Under the landfill or under the solid waste management, any plan to like at least to segregate it? Because I know that some of our residents are complaining of getting hurt.
Yeah, we do have plans for that, but we don't have the funding source. I mean, I would love to purchase the recycling bins, and distribute it out to all the residential homes, so that they'll have the ability to segregate at the point of collection, because that's really where it needs to start. And I've been having discussions with the commercial haulers, the Artmen, the AYD, MCC, that look, if you can, at the point of collection from your customer, already have these items segregated, it makes it much easier, right, for processing. So the question is, who's going to pay for the additional trash bins, because it is expensive, and we've been looking at potential grants for that. But again, I don't have that program. I don't have the law on my side. That's why I have to lean outside and go through grants office and DQ if they can assist. But if this comes into play, I can definitely develop that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ayuk po na.
Just Masa, Senator. Any other members? We're good. So are there any recommendations for amendments to the bill, or are we good to go with the original form? Great. With that said, can I get a motion to pass the Senate Bill 23-20, sorry, 28.
08.
Oh, 08, sorry. Senate Bill 2308 in its current form. So, recognize Senator Carl. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would officially like to offer a motion for the adoption of Senate Bill 24-08 in its current form.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been offered to adopt Senate Bill 24-8 and has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill 24-8 is now adopted. If I could ask the LA to please put together the committee report for the members to sign, so that we can place the bill on the calendar on our next session, or whenever the Senate President deems appropriate. I would greatly appreciate it. We now move on. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, members, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we now move on to the next bill on the agenda, which is Senate Bill 24-23, to suspend the administration and implementation of the Commonwealth Zoning Code and the Saipan zoning law and its amendments for a period of 5 years. At this time, I would like to invite the administrator, Ms. Ogomoro, and her team into the chamber. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ogomoro. Did you want to invite the board members up as well, or are you okay? The chairperson, yes. Okay. Yes. At this time, I open the floor for the administrator to provide any remarks if she has any. If not, we can dive right into the bill for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I believe my 6-page comment pretty much covered that. So I'm okay with going ahead with the.
Okay. And Chairman Schneider?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I had to go out during public comments, and I didn't realize we're down on the agenda. But I appreciate this opportunity to share some comments on Senate Bill 24-23. And to change the tone a little bit, and I appreciate Secretary Yumo trying to get this hearing moving in a very cordial way, but Senate Bill 24-23, I think, calls on me to either try and be polite a little bit to the authors of the bill. And I see Senator Castro here, who's the author. And if what I say here offends you, then that's fine. We're here to talk about the bill. My initial thought of the bill was, if the hope in the bill was to champion regression, then the authors are nailing it. Suspending the law for 5 years, and that's the Commonwealth Code, or the zoning code, and the local law for 5 years, that puts off any control on zoning for 5 years. Abolishing the board, what can we do, right? Transferring the staff to the Department of Public Works to do what? I don't know. The bill isn't clear. I don't know if the Department of Public Works is ready to receive the employees, if they have the funding for that, if the funding that the zoning has now would be transferred to the Department of Public Works. And, it should be in the bill. Have more control, have more measures to safeguard whatever zoning has built over the years. I hear our board member, Steve Chang, and I also want to recognize, I'm sorry, we have another board member here, Steven Sablon, who's in the audience. And I thank the zoning staff being here to come and speak, or maybe, if the committee would give the staff a little time to express their thoughts on the bill. It's a bill that is not good. It's a bad bill. I don't know where we're going to go without zoning. Member Chang mentioned that laws are outdated, the zoning law. It's convoluted and it's subjective. I told him I'm gonna disagree with him. The law is not outdated. The zoning law was recently amended. And I believe the Saipan members, senators were present in the local delegation sessions that reviewed the amendments years back. Know that it's not outdated. The law has constantly been updated. The law is not convoluted, or else we would have chaos. I've not seen any chaos. That I don't see how it's convoluted. In the bill, the authors identified several things that would justify suspending the law, like
It lacks transparency. It lacks efficiency. It stifles the economy. There's delays in decisions. The zoning is encroaching on another agency's responsibility, particularly public works. Those are things that the authors put in the bill. Are they, in fact, verifiable? Since the bill came out, the zoning administrator has put out some files, a lot of files, and we looked at the files. We looked at board meetings to see where decisions were delayed, where efficiency was lacking, where inconsistencies in the enforcement of the law occurred. We found none. So, it's a guessing game where the authors are coming from. To go back before zoning would be like just adding more burden on the people. And Saipan, Tinian and Rhoda do not have zoning yet. The community is still developing, but I'm sure Rhoda and Tinian are also concerned about where auto shops, bars, cannabis retail shops go. Right? Do you guys want to see those in your village homesteads, in your neighborhoods? That was way back here in Saipan. Poker arcades were out in the villages. The local delegation found that they shouldn't be there. They should be at some zoning districts. So they passed a law. The governor signed it into law. So poker arcades are now located along Beach Road, Middle Road, where they should be, away from the villages, away from laundromats, away from schools. Kill zoning or suspend zoning law for 5 years, those poker arcades are going to go back to where the money might be, in the villages, where whoever's responsible for washing the laundry would gamble while they're washing, and they'll put up a shop near the schools. While parents are waiting for their kids to get out of school, they could be playing poker. You want that to happen? Let it happen. So I think the authors identified the problems, and that's the fly in the ointment. But it's not the law or the laws that are the problem. It's the implementation. It's the people in the office, in the zoning office. We're changing that. The board is concerned. We hear concerns. We look into it. In our board meeting last night, we talked about it, how to improve processing of applications, the time to get back to an applicant. It was a very lengthy conversation with the administrator. We're trying to improve processing, office and application or applicants communication. That's all improving. We're changing it. So earlier this morning, our staff submitted the board's comments to the bill. I hope you received it. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Mossy, Chair. I think it's important to note, as we sit here and open this dialogue to have a conversation between the author and the co-sponsor of the bill, as well as our committee members, and with the zoning administrator as well as her team who are here in support. I think know that the proposed bill is not set in stone. It's actually, a great way to start the dialogue, and and it's not perfect in any way. I can tell you that there's, but it's a starting point, right? To sit down and have this conversation and iron out some of the issues. I know that the administrator requested earlier to disapprove or reject the bill and remove it from the committee. But I think it's important to let the people know also who are listening and maybe viewing this later on that, the bill does not intend to put zoning out of commission, so to speak. Like the bill was just intended to put a pause so that we can take a look at the existing regulations and processes and see where we could improve or enhance it. In no way are we saying that we're going to put zoning, we're going to stop zoning, because we definitely need zoning to ensure that, businesses are being are opening up in the proper locations that they need to be, and not just anywhere else. But I just wanted to emphasize that, that the bill is not set in stone. It's not anywhere perfect where it is right now, but we are here to have that conversation and have an understanding and see where we can meet each other halfway. So with that, I would like to recognize the author of the bill to share his remarks. Thank you.
Welcome, Chairman and Administrator and staff. First of all, I wanted to make this clear that the bill is not to abolish zoning. We do recognize the value of having zoning in place. However, due to inconsistencies in the law, and there's a lot of variation, and my question is, if we were to get lawsuits because of those inconsistencies, who ends up footing the bill? When we talk about land values to be retained, I see a lot of buildings being demolished, blighted properties. My question there is, let's say right now the cost of construction is really expensive. If you have a building that's just missing maybe a wall in the front, but yet we require the property owner to demolish the building down to zero, what's the appraisal value going to look like for the property owner? We're talking about cost savings, and we have to ask ourselves, we have to take ourselves away from the if we're working in a place, it's easy to get stuck in the process, but we really have to ask ourselves, is the process helping us or hurting us? And can it be improved? And hence the inception. If we didn't care about the employees, we wouldn't, we would just abolish the law completely, or that's what the bill would be. But the bill is to suspend it and reassess while we really look at programmatic issues. So one of the board members mentioned earlier, we just need to simplify it. And how long does it take to do that? And what is the recourse? To be honest, I heard a lot of smokescreen, meaning I heard a lot of statements about looking at other agencies, CUC, and were made, and we are looking at those. And that's why some of those bills are in place to streamline government services. But in response to what was said earlier, 5 reasons, I just wanted to list a few. Overreach, inconsistency, duplication of services, property rights. And why do I say that? At the end of the day, who is zoning really protecting? Is it protecting our people, or is it protecting big business? Because there's a lot of people in the business community, and there's a lot of residents that, did talk about their frustration, yet I'm only seeing comments coming from big business. But when I'm in the villages, when I'm in the stores, there's a lot of small business that are expressing their concerns. So again, this is not to say that we don't appreciate the work of the zoning office. What we're trying to do here is really to look at the process and assess it and improve it. Because, like, for example, in earlier statements, we were talking about, in one of the comments, actually, we saw about, there were no issues, right? In one of this statement, it says, permit issuance timeline 1 to 5 days. There's several businesses out there that are still waiting for a permit for their signs. And, something as simple as a sign, it may not seem important, but, I'd say the experts for businesses, like, we need to leave, the government needs to allow businesses to, that flexibility to have their signs up and not necessarily impede sales or things like that. But so again, this bill was not to abolish zoning. The goal, and it's not a finished product, but the goal is to reassess. Because we can't be going through litigation and and having the government fork out a lot of costs in terms of litigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manny. I recognize Senator Carl.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Chairman and Administrator. Thank you for making your time to be here with us this morning. I had a couple of questions as to so in your opening statement, you said that you guys don't have any issues with timelines, processes, but then you went on to elaborate on having a meeting with the board yesterday and talking about refining processes and trying to streamline and make things more efficient. So they're kind of counterintuitive. I did want to, in the process of, could you explain to us how you guys evaluate some of the things that are being brought to your attention through this bill or the authors, insofar as, like, what does it look like when you review your department and its efficiencies, or try to find, like, places where you can streamline and make things better? What does that process look like for you guys?
Thank you, Senator. My opening statement that everything, general, everything is going smoothly. And then I said last night at the board meeting, we spoke with the staff about application turnarounds. those are not counterintuitive. We were asking the staff, how long does it take to process an application? We wanted to see if there were areas where the turnaround time could be improved. An application that comes in, and the administrator is here, a lot of them, according to the administrator, are not 100% complete. And that will allow the staff reviewing the application to make a recommendation to the administrator to approve or disapprove the application, so that the process begins. The staff receiving the application contacts the applicant. You're missing this document. Please submit it. And they do this back and forth. If the applicant is interested and has the document, I would assume the administrator would give the approval on a third day or a second day. You do understand that applications have to be reviewed. There are requirements that have to come along with the application. Sign permits, for example, those shouldn't take more than a week. But if the applicant comes in with just an application and the office has a checklist, where is the sign going to go up? What size? That give us the dimension. What are the contents of the signs? Are they like, offensive? I mean, we don't screen those things, but we want to make sure that the checklist is complete, and then the process proceeds. It happens. I want to go back. I'm sorry to Senator Castro's comments about not abolishing the board. The bill provides, and I do acknowledge, and I want to repeat it, the bill is not set in stone, but the bill provides for the dissolution, for the board to be dissolved. I don't know how you define that. If you dissolve the board, it's gone. By law, and this is going to become a law if it ever passed. The two laws that are going to be suspended, including the regulations that implement the laws, are going to be suspended for 5 years. So I don't see where this pause is good when you're dissolving the board. How can you get feedback from the board members when you want to improve the process, when you want to improve the law? Who do you engage with? And then
thank you. Oh,
the land values, Senator, without zoning, what do you think is going to happen? Appraisers go out there and look at development, and they compare properties. Without zoning, without any land control, land use control, land values will go haywire. Incomplete buildings. If there's a wall missing in front of the building and the administrator comes with a notice, the notice doesn't say, and I hope we don't see it, that you have to tear that building down today or tomorrow or next week. There's a process to that. And it's a separate law. It's a local law, and you know it. It's the nuisance and abatement law. Protecting big businesses. Who does zoning protect? Everybody. Your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle, your schools, the church, this building. It protects everybody. So we don't want to single out what this law that was passed by the legislature and the delegation as protecting. It protects everybody. Thanks.
think I want to add, Chairwoman. Thank you, Chairman. I think my main concern here is that we are missing the very important element, and that is for us to engage openly, to reciprocate and communicate any concerns. And I've requested in my comments for you to share the concerns, the public feedback, and the over 20 some complaints that came into the office of the Senate President. We need to communicate together and not wait to convene in sessions such as this to come to a solution, right? So with every problem, we need to sit down together and advise us of what concerns your constituents are going through so that we can be able to address them. Going back to the author's comments about the blight properties, we do have a process for enforcement. We definitely do not order them to demolish a building with less violation or less of a nuisance condition. And I want to make that clear. Until now, we have not imposed any fines, and staff has taken a tremendous amount of time sitting down with property owners and driving them through compliance procedures. So you have to understand that it takes a lot of effort. And the bottom line is, let's communicate. We are in the dark of what these complaints are about. And I surely appreciate, for the benefit, not just for the board or the staff, but for the entire community. I appreciate if we come together and we understand what the problems are, because I can tell you that a majority of it, as it trends now, has to do with zoning's decision to activate enforcement consistently. And so many businesses out there, sorry, I take that back. Some new businesses and current businesses have, come in to complain, to state their concerns, and we've sat down with them. We've gone through, again, compliance procedures. So once again, I ask an open, we should reciprocate together. Thank you.
And
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I just want to go back to Senator Castro's concern about getting sued. It's going to happen if it's going to happen. The local delegation passed the adult gambling machine to move poker out from the villages to where they should be. A lot of operators complied with that law. One operator didn't like it, stayed, and it's still there. So the law that the zoning office and the board were following was the law. But the zoning board got sued by the operator. We lost in the Superior Court. The AG decided not to appeal that decision. But it's the law, the way it was written, that the zoning office was following. There was interpretation on how to define the deadlines, to set the deadlines. There were different opinions on what the deadlines were, what the law meant, the effective date of that law. So getting sued is not because the board is so reckless or so stupid to ignore what the law says. The board was following the law that was written in this house or the house next door. So if we're going to get sued, we're going to get sued. How we defend the lawsuit is another story. It's if you're going to write a perfect law, Senator, my God, you should be reelected every time, because you're going to save the CNMI government and the people and the local businesses a ton of money. Writing a zoning law that is the CNMI or is Saipan, you got to be more than a planner, more than a, I don't know what you can be. Board Member Chang said the law that we have now was taken from South Dakota. I disagree with that. It was the local people here who put that law together, the zoning law that we have. We took pieces from different places and put them together. We shaped the law to our needs, to our vision of improving, of developing. If anyone could write a zoning law that is specific to the island of Saipan, then we gotta give you a Nobel Prize for doing that, because you're gonna be the smartest person in the whole wide world to write a law that is very, very specific to Saipan, for example. We got to get that thinking out of your head. There's no law that is very specific. When you draft legislations, do you like sit in front of your computer and just think that I'm here in the CNMI, this law is going to be just specific to the CNMI, or you take pieces you learned from different places, how they did it, how they crafted their laws.
So
It's a...
I apologize for interjecting,
Right.
Chair. I kind of just wanted to bring it back to the question. The original question was, what does the process look like for you guys to evaluate some of the holes in the processes or ways that you can better make the service that you provide to the island of Saipan more efficient? So that was the question, and anybody can. I'm just trying to understand, how do you evaluate yourselves as an agency? The reason why I ask this is because we obviously during the budget cycle and throughout the years, whenever anything comes up, agencies come in, and all of the agencies wholesale identify and know that there are gaps in some of these. That's why they come to us to try to resolve some of these concerns. And in the spirit of what you're trying to convey to us, right, is as Alex Vaughn said, don't throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. Here, I'm here asking you and your administrator and your staff, how do you guys look inwards? And obviously, so 19 complaints, 20 complaints came to the Senate President's office. Those are only the people that took the time out to formally make a complaint. Do you guys have a mechanism within your agency that allows for the public to provide feedback on the process? Or those are the questions, 3 questions I'm posing. If you could
Let
assist.
the administrator answer that. Just recently, she did a around the island outreach. Doors were open during the evenings for anyone to come in, say anything about what they think should be or should not be happening in their villages, their neighborhood. She collected a lot of information from that. Some turnouts were very disappointing. But the other side is each board member comes in during board meetings and we share concerns, what we see out there. And like, for example, during the busiest period when the Garapan revitalization project was going on, they opened up the paseo, the foot traffic path and they open up the road, we told the staff, look at parking requirements there. Because people are going to come in and apply for a zoning permit, and the law provides that they should provide a number of parking spaces for their businesses. And we all know Garapan is tight. There's no place there to park except for the empty lots that could be turned into parking spaces. But those are the things that we come in, the process that we look at, and we're coming up with amendments to the law to make changes to parking requirements, setbacks, landscaping requirements that are for zoning districts that are, very tight for additional things that are currently in the law. Therese?
Thank you, Chair. Senator King, to answer your question, we don't, we have a database that actually measures our performance. And right now our permitting is generating over between 300, 400 permits and clearances per month. So that pretty much measures our performance. As for the public comment, to see how satisfied each customer is, we don't have a drop box or something. Maybe that's one thing we should have online on our website.
So you have a database that tracks the applications, the amount of applications, and then the amount of permits that are given compared to the applications. So do you guys have a metric on how many applicants?
We definitely have. And just for that, I'd like to announce that we are working to secure a presentation to the Saipan and Northern Islands legislative delegation within this month. And we're also going to be providing our progress report, annual report for this past fiscal year. Most of the data there had been retrieved from our
Extracted from the
database.
database.
Correct. So yes, the office has been utilizing that to measure the performance of the office.
And in your opinion, what would your suggestion be, or what would you consider as one of the biggest hurdles or obstacles that you guys face throughout the process that you would like to see changed to better implement the zoning laws here, if any?
Top and foremost, thank you for that question, would be staffing, increasing our capacity to be able to, perform our responsibilities, permitting as well as enforcement. We are facing that challenge right now, and we continue to seek other funding opportunities to help us with that. As far as external challenges, I would say right now, because of the way the economy and society is going, financial strains and stuff like that, we're receiving resistance from applicants and members of our communities. They do not want to comply with, certain requirements. And these are basic requirements. So, for instance, they come in to apply, we ask them for a parking plan or a floor plan to determine their number of parking spaces. They kind of resist those things. They either say they don't have any money or why are we giving them run? Yeah. But those are basic requirements that we require in order to complete our assessments of each application.
Thank
and
you.
target the timeline that I've shared with you in my comments.
For the turnaround.
Yes.
And my last question, Madam Chair. I know we're running late on time. So when you bring up the staffing, you need more staff, is what you're saying, to do permitting, to do enforcement. So I'm gonna take that request as an assumption, and I'm gonna assume that many of your staff wear multiple hats within your department. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. They
And
multitask,
so
all of them.
about how many, about what percentage would you estimate of your staff do multiple things that don't allow them to put 100% of their effort onto the division or department that they're currently assigned to?
Can you please
So
repeat
like,
the question?
in your estimation, what is the percentage of your staff that is diverted to, like, say for example, I'm in processing for applications, and then I might go do something else. What percentage of your staff aren't doing necessarily the job that they were hired to do, and then they have to divert their efforts from whether it's processing applications or to do other tasks, like you said, they multitask. So,
Right.
So what percentage of your employees?
I would say about 50%.
50%.
Yes.
And does that contribute to any delays or?
No, we don't have any delays. We don't have any backlogs.
But it's just a strain on your staff.
Right. It is. It's overwhelming, and I try to prevent that as much as possible. For enforcement with the projects that are before us, the new blighted properties, nuisance abatement act, we do need additional staffing for that.
And just lastly, what is the retention rate? Turnover attrition rate at zoning? Do you guys retain a lot of your employees, or do you find that you guys have hiring and then they find another job and leave, or is that
We
not really
retain
an issue?
most of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Before I recognize Senator Manny, I just would like to take this opportunity, Administrator, and to your staff. We do appreciate all the hard work and effort that your team is putting in. We do hear some positive things about the improvements that zoning has made as far as customer service. So I just want to let the staff know here that there have been some positive feedback from the community, but there are also some concerns or issues that have been brought to our attention, hence the reason why we are here. I do hear your request to potentially have a sit down, maybe informally, and just address some of these concerns that have been brought to our attention, and go from there. I know that Senator Manny was just appointed as chair for a special committee that's to look at a lot of the government agencies policies and procedures to see how some of that may be creating obstacles or hindrance towards businesses, but we can definitely consider using that as a way to move forward with this. So I now like to recognize Senator Manny. Thank you. And just so you know, like, we do have to be at the Chamber of Commerce at 11:30, and I really do appreciate you guys coming in, to talk about this bill. But it looks like we're gonna have to stop at some point, maybe like in 5 or 10 minutes, so that we can allow us some time to get to our next meeting. But we will definitely have another discussion with the author and the members to see how we're going to proceed with this legislation. So with that, I recognize Senator Manny.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to ask a question about process? Because you did mention that there's a lot of permits coming through. However, as we look into streamlining, excuse me, streamlining services, I'm just going to use an example. Let's say in Chalancanoa, where the building where Townhouse department store is located, it's one rental space, right? A shopping center, a mini outlet mall. It's already, if that area is already zoned for that type of business activity, does the zoning office require each vendor or merchant within the outlet to apply for a zoning permit, even if the whole building itself is already zoned for that activity?
Yes. Zoning does require them to get a permit, mainly because zoning is all about regulating land use. So each tenant that comes in proposing a business comes into zoning and applies for a permit.
So I look forward to possibly meeting about that, because that's where that disconnect can be. If an area is already zoned for this business activity, and it's not exclusive to zoning. There's other government agencies that have the same. We seem to put a big focus on permitting and the volume of permitting. In fact, just to give an example, with the business license, a few years ago or several years ago, they changed it, amended the law, and required each business license to be per location. So obviously, you're going to have more business license and more permit requirements. So in the essence of that example where this area is already zoned for shopping, I think we really need to look into that. Businesses that are applying for a business license in that space should be waived from zoning requirements, given that the building, the developer, the actual building already got the zoning permit for that.
That's correct. But the building owner actually, in your scenario, would only get permitted for having an commercial space. But then each tenant has different type of use that is allowed within a village commercial or a zoning district. And that is the reason why each use should be getting a zoning permit.
How many other jurisdictions, based on, we're saying we're looking at, have that same process? Like, if you were to open up a business today, how many other jurisdictions do you know of require the same process that was mentioned?
We can take a look at that. We don't care about other jurisdictions. We have the Saipan zoning law, the zoning code, and let's work with that. If we want to look at other jurisdictions, then we'll get back to you. But I would assume, like in Hawaii, for example, in Waikiki or near the mall, Ala Moana Mall, every business that pops up has to go through some processing for maybe an application. Like the building down in Susupi that you mentioned, what's the harm of having Mr. Bermudez going to zoning office and asking, I have a plan to open up a bar, a drinking establishment in that commercial building. It's a mall. Is it allowed? Or do we just want to say whoever owns the building has that as a mall? It's going to be a commercial building. Whatever businesses go in, who cares? Getting the initial process, I think, Senator Castro, and this happens, is the zoning inquiry. An applicant would just come in and submit a simple piece of paper and says, I want to open this business down in that mall next to Payless or Super Fresh or KFC. Is it permitted? The zoning office would say, yeah, it's permitted. And if they look at the law and it's a permitted use, it's granted. Plain and simple. But if someone wants to come in and open up a gun shop or shooting range within that facility and the zoning law does not permit it, then we have to be concerned. There's no harm in inquiring.
So just to get back to that, that concept, the harm is that if the more processing you have, that's going to be, and you're increasing. It's a bottleneck. But in essence, research is really important, right? And we have to be looking at our agencies. Are we operating in terms of best practice? Yes, the law is not perfect, but we also have to evolve. And without assessing those things, without researching and looking at our practices, without really diving deep into the data, we're gonna get we're gonna suffer from issues of performance issues and economic issues. But we really need to be looking at our process, and it needs to be data driven. And earlier, what was mentioned, just the fact that Saipan is really small. There's a lot of businesses and community members that they may not want to share their complaint, right? By your statement earlier, it already identified who that business was with the lawsuit. And just to make it clear, I actually spoke to that business owner, and I said, I actually don't agree with you being in my village. But the fact of the matter is, what's written on the law, our regulations have to align with that. Otherwise, we get into problems. We also have to remember who we serve, and I know it's hard. And don't take this as a attack on the office or the board, but we have to remove ourselves from those situations and really hear out the concerns. And earlier you mentioned, like, we don't care what other jurisdictions are doing, but if certain jurisdictions are doing it better, and if there's, that's why, for example, agencies are accredited, is because they're accredited to make sure they're operating in terms of best practice and certain standards. So that's something that we may want to look into. Because when we have inconsistencies and vagueness and we don't have a standard set in place, it's a breeding ground for issues. Thank you.
Right. Just real quick, research, I agree with you. Any prospective business coming in to start a business here, they must do their research. And in that research, they'll find that they have to go through zoning, they have to go to CUC, they have to go to the Department of Commerce. So what's the process? It's that bad? Other jurisdictions might be more stringent. Do you want to copy them or stay away from them? We just heard Mr. Chang said our zoning law was adopted using South Dakota's, and this body says, or the bill says, that's not good. We shouldn't use other jurisdictions' zoning law here because we're the island of Saipan, we're Chamorros and Carolinians and others. Our zoning law shouldn't be like theirs. So I'm kind of confused what to do here. Look at other jurisdictions and learn from them. And at the same time, I'm hearing, let's look at only Saipan and do something to just make the law Saipan. We're getting different instructions on how to do this. Senator, yeah, if we ever sit down to talk about your bill, then I hope we'd have a long time to talk about the bill and how we can improve things if we have to.
Just want to conclude also, my conclusion. I know we're all for simplicity and preventing bottlenecks and stuff like that. But yeah, once again, we agree to, we must agree to sit down and engage and discuss and resolve issues. And even the pausing, even for only 5 years, or maybe less than 5 years, is going to prove very chaotic to our island development with all the time, money that we've invested to make the improvement. During the pause, we're going to see a lot of buildings built without setbacks, built on property lines. You're going to see a lot of parking on the streetways, no streetscape, and which is the current trend. We're going to see a lot of boxed buildings without any doors and windows and building and design elements that zoning requires. So again, thank you, Chairwoman.
Senator, I know time is short and you have to leave. I just want to share something because I sat down with a visitor from Europe who was here for a couple of days. And my wife asked him, so how do you like Saipan? He shook his head, gave a very sad face, and he said, it could be better. The building, the houses are in bad shape. This is coming from one visitor from Europe. What if we ask 10 more, 15 more? Why aren't we having visitors come to the CNMI? Why are Japanese staying away from the CNMI? The Koreans are just like passing us. Now I think they want to go to Guam. We got to do something. Don't suspend the zoning law. We're doing something right. We're fixing problems. And there are problems out there. And again, during my confirmation hearing a couple of months ago, I asked the representatives to drive around in their villages. Look around. Because my God, Senator, you're from Tinian, drive around in CK and Susupi and Olyai and everywhere else. Because you're going to find out that it's a place where we need to do something. putting the zoning code and the local law on pause, if that's the fancy word today, pause. I mean, my gosh, if you suspend it for 5 years, anything could happen out there, and it's going to be harder to correct those things that are going to happen in 5 years. We're not going to be here in 5 years. So the senators and the representatives coming after, behind you, are just going to shake their head and say, what did we do, or what did they do? Because of just a couple of complaints about inefficiencies, inconsistencies. In your bill, you said the laws are good. It's the process. It's the people in the office. This board is serious, and we're on top of the staff. The board can only supervise the administrator. The administrator supervises her staff. So give us time to work on this. And if it's not going to be very painful, Senator Castro, shelve your bill. Thanks.
Senator Manny, 1 minute. Thank you.
I just wanted to, the statement about the process being the staff, in no way, I think the staff are following the guidance and the regulation of management. So I'm not saying this is, I think I disagree with that statement. It's really the regulations and the process, and it's management that drive those regulations and process and implement. So this bill is in no way talking about the staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manny. Again, I thank you, Administrator, to your staff, Chairman. Thank you for making the time to come up and start the dialogue on this. It's a very important discussion. I do hear your request, and I will talk to the committee members and the author himself too, and see how we can move forward. We can sit here all day and debate back and forth, right? But ultimately, the goal is to see how we can address, the issues and concerns that are being brought forward to us, but also hearing zoning. What are the struggles? What are the needs are, and if time is, needed to make the improvements on the processes, or maybe look at the regulations and see how we can better improve them, then we have to come together and work it out. Again, thank you for your time. It's I know it's noon and we have to be getting to our next meeting, but I do appreciate, and so members, at this time, if there are no objections, we can table this bill for further review and discussion, and try to schedule a meeting with the administrator and the relevant stakeholders, right? To include also DPW, who is named the department to take over during the transition. So I think we just need to come together to the table and better understand what are some of the issues and see how we can resolve it without the legislation if need be. Okay, so thank you everyone for your time. You are now excused, Ms. Ogumoro and Chairman. Thank you. Members, we're really running late, so if I can get a motion to adjourn this committee meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Okay, thank you. A motion was offered and has been seconded to adjourn today's committee meeting. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Today's joint committee meeting is hereby adjourned at 11:31 a.m. Thank you, members and staff.